The gym buzzed with noise, testosterone, and a bitter mix of sweat and ego. It wasn't just any gym, it was Eastwood Boxing Club, a place where careers were launched and dreams were crushed. On that day, a crowd had packed in shoulder to shoulder. Phones up, lights flashing, and reporters waiting for a soundbite. Not because there was a scheduled match, but because Terence "Tank" Voss had issued a challenge. Terence wasn't just a boxer, he was an arrogant spectacle. A loud-mouthed, undefeated local champion with 1 million followers and a reputation for humiliating opponents inside and outside the ring. He loved being watched, craved dominance, and bullied not just with fists but with words. To him, boxing wasn't about art, it was about control. That day, in his usual gold-accented robe and designer gloves, he leaned into the mic and shouted, "Greater than $10,000, 1 round. Anybody in here think they got what it takes? Step up. Just 1 round with me. If you last, you win. If not, well, you'll at least make a good meme." Laughter exploded across the gym. His crew hooted, girls giggled, and even a few local fighters looked down, shaking their heads. Nobody moved. No one was stupid enough to risk brain damage for a few seconds of internet fame. That's when the voice came, small, soft, unexpected. I'll do it. The crowd twisted toward the back corner where a figure had been leaning against the wall, half hidden in shadows. A girl barely 5 feet tall, hoodie pulled up, face half covered in the shade. She stepped forward, her movements quiet but confident, like someone walking through noise with purpose. She wasn't dressed like a fighter. Worn sneakers, faded gym shorts, and a hoodie 2 sizes too big, no entourage. No gloves of her own. Just determination in her eyes and a silence that cut through the chaos. Terence tilted his head like he misheard. Then he laughed, loud and sharp. Greater than you? You want to fight me? The crowd laughed with him. A few even pulled out their phones to get a better angle, whispering things like, "Is this staged? Who is she? She's gonna get murdered in there." But she didn't blink. She just walked closer, calm, controlled. "I'll sign the waiver," she said, looking straight at the gym manager. Nodded Terence. The room got quiet. People started whispering. The gym owner hesitated for a second, then nodded reluctantly. Maybe he thought it was for entertainment. Maybe he just wanted views. Or maybe he knew something nobody else did. Papers were signed. A spare pair of gloves and headgear was tossed her way. She put them on slowly, deliberately, like she had done it 100 times before. Her fingers moved with a precision that betrayed her ragged appearance. As she stepped into the ring, even Terence started to look slightly confused. She wasn't shaking, she wasn't nervous. She wasn't even breathing hard. "What's your name, little girl?" Terence smirked. Bouncing in place. Aliyah, she said quietly. "Aliyah Brooks." The name didn't mean anything to most people there. But one old trainer in the back stiffened. He'd heard that name before. Jab Brooks, a legendary fighter who disappeared from the sport after a tragedy years ago. No one had seen him since. But before that thought could form fully in anyone's mind, the bell rang. And in that moment, seconds before the first punch flew, the world shifted. The mood changed. The room was no longer laughing. No one could explain why. Maybe it was the way she stood. Maybe it was her eyes. Maybe it was something ancient, instinctual that whispered, "This isn't going the way you think." Terence was bouncing in place, smiling for the cameras, raising his gloves. Aliyah stood still, calm, like a coiled spring. Not frozen but ready. And as the countdown began in everyone's minds, absolutely no one had a clue that what was about to happen in that ring would end up on every screen across the world within 24 hours. The bell rang like a gunshot, slicing through the tension that clung to the air like fog. The first second was silence, then came the smirk. Terence grinned like a wolf spotting prey, rolling his shoulders, bouncing on his heels with that trademark arrogance. He raised his gloves but didn't throw a punch right away. Instead, he danced, mockingly, flashily, like the showman he always was. Asterisk, he made a big show of circling her, throwing fake jabs at the air, not even aiming at her. He wanted to entertain the crowd, not win a fight. To him, this wasn't a match, it was a public execution, asterisk greater than don't blink, y'all. He yelled toward the crowd, asterisk, this is about to get funny real quick. Asterisk laughter trickled in again. Phones were recording. From every angle, a few people began live streaming on TikTok. Some viewers thought it was staged. Others were just waiting for the girl to get knocked out, asterisk, but Aliyah didn't move. Asterisk, she stood perfectly still, feet planted, shoulders relaxed, gloves up near her chin. Her breathing was steady. Her face unreadable, like she'd seen all this before, because she had. Terrence lunged in with his first real move, a wild overhand right, meant to intimidate more than land. Aliyah didn't flinch. She just dipped her head half an inch, and the punch missed entirely. Asterisk, he stepped back, surprised. He came again, this time with a jab to the gut, fast but lazy. She slid to the side. Dodged it clean. Again, she didn't swing back. Not yet, asterisk that. Silence fell again. Asterisk, the audience began to notice something strange. She wasn't afraid. In fact, she looked like she was studying him, reading him, timing him. Asterisk Terrence, now a little irritated, threw a flurry left, right, left again, all fast, all strong, all aimed at her face. Asterisk Aliyah ducked under. The first blocked the second with her elbow and spun sideways, avoiding the third. Her footwork was surgical, clean, no wasted motion. Asterisk, that was the first time the crowd gasped. Asterisk, the smirk on Terrence's face cracked. Asterisk greater than, you think this is a game? He growled. All right then. Asterisk, he charged again, this time with heat behind it, but as he closed in, Aliyah snapped forward, her first strike. A jab. Asterisk, it landed squarely in the center of his chest, light but precise. He staggered a step. She didn't follow up. She didn't need to. It was a warning shot. Suddenly this wasn't funny anymore. Asterisk, a man in the crowd leaned over to a friend and muttered, yo. She got timing. She ain't just some girl. Asterisk, up in the corner, the gym owner leaned forward too. Something about her movement looked familiar. Not just trained, but professionally trained. Asterisk, Terrence wiped sweat from his lip. He was sweating already, and she wasn't. Asterisk, with rage flaring in his eyes, he launched a brutal right hook aimed to take her head off. It whooshed through the air, but she was gone. Not literally, but she moved so fast and so smoothly it was like she disappeared. Then came her second strike, a clean right cross pop, right into his ribs. The sound echoed through the gym, sharp, ugly. Terrence winced and stepped back. The crowd winced too. The cameras caught everything. And in that split second, where a champion boxer got tagged by a girl he just mocked in front of hundreds of people, the energy changed. Asterisk, phones lowered. Smirks faded. Asterisk, the audience went quiet. They weren't watching a joke anymore. They were watching something dangerous. Terrence shook out his arms, looking angrier now. His swagger was cracking. He circled her again, faster this time, more aggressive. He threw another jab, blocked a low kick, illegal. The ref warned him. He spat on the mat. Asterisk, then he attacked with a barrage of body punches, trying to overwhelm her, but Aliyah moved like water, slipping left, pivoting out, redirecting his weight. She wasn't fighting hard. She was fighting smart. Asterisk, a retired fighter in the crowd, now standing with arms crossed, whispered under his breath, asterisk, that's not street fighting, that's ring IQ, whoever trained her. They knew what they were doing. Asterisk, and then, out of nowhere, just as Terrence stepped in with another overconfident right hook, Aliyah countered again. Asterisk A. Left to the temple, quick, precise, not a knockout but a statement. Terrence staggered sideways. The ropes caught him. Asterisk he shook his head, blinking hard. The arrogance on his face was replaced with something nobody ever thought they'd see on him, fear. Asterisk, Aliyah didn't press the attack. She stood still again, her breathing calm, her eyes locked in like a sniper waiting for her next opening. Asterisk and the crowd. They were no longer cheering for Terrence. They were silent, holding their breath. Asterisk, someone whispered, Who is she? The gym had become a cathedral. This was no longer a show. This was a warning, and Elijah Brooks had just served notice. The air inside the gym had thickened. The crowd, once loud and laughing, was now eerily silent, some too stunned to speak, others too hooked to blink. Even the boxers in training who once leaned against walls casually were now standing upright, jaws tight, eyes tracking every movement inside the ring like they were watching history unfold. Terrence Tank Voss, the undefeated beast of Eastwood Gym, had just been tagged clean twice. And not by a ranked fighter. Not by a challenger. By a teenage girl who walked in alone, silent, unknown. But that was about to change. Up on the metal bleachers near the back, a man in his 50s stood slowly. His hoodie was pulled low over his eyes, but his hands trembled. As he leaned against the rail, he wasn't here to watch a show, he was here because of her. And in that moment, watching her pivot, move, measure, and land like a surgeon, he realized she wasn't just holding her own. She was following his. Blueprint. Greater than that's the Brooks pivot, he whispered. That's mine. His name was Jacob "Jab" Brooks, once a rising Olympic contender known for his unmatched timing and technique. But years ago, he vanished after a tragic accident claimed the life of his wife and only daughter in a fiery highway crash. Or so everyone thought. What no one knew was that one girl survived, Elijah, badly burned. Traumatized and declared a miracle, she had been raised in complete secrecy. While the world believed Jab Brooks disappeared from boxing out of grief, the truth was darker, deeper. He had locked himself away in a small town outside Detroit and poured every breath, every ounce of pain, every drop of knowledge into training the girl who meant more to him than life itself. He didn't train her to compete. He trained her to survive. And now, she was standing in a ring with one of the most arrogant street boxing champions in the city and dismantling him. Terrence wiped his face again, trying to hide the wobble in his legs. His breathing had become uneven. His nose was bleeding slightly from that left jab Elijah landed. Just seconds ago, fight, bro. She's a girl. Someone shouted from his entourage, but even they didn't sound so sure anymore. Elijah's gloves stayed up. She didn't taunt, didn't react, didn't smirk. Her eyes didn't leave his. She wasn't just fighting a boxer. She was staring down the system. Every person who laughed at her, underestimated her, ignored her existence. In that ring, she was making them remember her name. Terrence exploded forward. Swinging recklessly now, his rhythm broken, he launched a right hook that barely grazed her shoulder, followed by a desperate uppercut that caught nothing but air. Elijah dipped. Slid right. Slipped under his arm. She turned on her heel and landed a sharp, punishing shot to his kidney. Pop, he grunted, loud, audible across the gym. Then she stepped back again, cool. Calculated, silent, the gym crowd reacted like a wave. Heads turned. Eyes widened. A woman near the front gasped and whispered, "She's a ghost." She's walking through him. More and more spectators began to realize this wasn't a random girl with luck. This was someone trained. Someone built, up in the bleachers. Jab Brooks couldn't stay quiet any longer. His voice cracked as he muttered to himself, greater than she waited for this. She trained for this. The crowd's attitude began to shift. Some started cheering for her. A few brave voices called her name. "Let's go, Elijah. Handle him. Make him eat it." Terrence, hearing it, looked around in disbelief. This was his gym, his crowd, his reputation, and it was crumbling. Second by second, desperation took over. He charged again, this time throwing combinations in blind rage. But his punches were sloppy, wide, tired. Elijah danced through them like wind in a storm. 1, 2, slip, step back, pivot, then. She stopped, and for the first time she spoke. Just 2 words, greater than "you done?" The crowd erupted. Terrence swung, again missing wildly, and fell forward off balance. His body smashed into the ropes. As he tried to reset, Elijah moved in, boom, a clean right cross to the side of his jaw. He stumbled, dropped to one knee, asterisk. The ref stepped in, hands out, but Terrence shoved him away and got back up, panting, red with humiliation. The round wasn't even over, and he looked like a man drowning, asterisk. But Elia wasn't done yet. She had made her statement. Now, she was about to deliver the lesson, asterisk. From that moment forward, she didn't just fight back, she took control, asterisk, and everyone watching knew, asterisk. This wasn't an upset, it was a reckoning. The seconds ticked down, but no one was looking at the clock. Asterisk, everyone's eyes were locked on Terrence Voss once, the undisputed bully of Eastwood Gym, now bloody-lipped, breathing ragged and barely standing. His movements were sluggish, uncoordinated. His balance was broken, legs rubbery, mind clouded. Asterisk, across from him stood Elia Brooks, calm, untouched, unmoved. She wasn't just surviving, she was dominating, asterisk. The audience had stopped recording for content and started recording for proof. Proof that they weren't dreaming. Proof that a young girl no one knew had just dismantled the gym's loudest lion with nothing but skill, patience, and absolute control. Asterisk, the ref hovered closer now, eyes alert. Even he sensed it. This fight had turned into a public unraveling. And it wasn't over yet, asterisk. Terrence stumbled forward again. Another swing. Another miss, asterisk. Elia didn't even flinch. She was no longer reacting to him, she was anticipating him, asterisk. With every move he made, she was already gone. Then came the moment that froze time. Terrence launched a desperate haymaker, cocked from too far out, telegraphed, wild, predictable. It was a punch he never should have thrown. But he did. Elia ducked under it effortlessly, twisted her frame, and in one fluid, thunderous motion, she released a left hook from the ground up. Crack! It landed flush on his jaw. The sound echoed like a firecracker through the gym, asterisk. His mouthguard flew out, his legs folded. His body spun slightly from the force before crumbling backward, collapsing to the mat with a heavy, echoing thud. For a second, no one moved. The ref dove in, asterisk. Terrence's eyes were glazed over, blinking slowly like he couldn't remember where he was or who he was, asterisk. People in the front row gasped audibly. Someone dropped their phone. Another screamed, "Oh my God." Then the crowd exploded, roars, gasps, cheering, chaos, asterisk. People ran toward the ring. Others stood with their mouths open. A coach grabbed his head like he had just witnessed a murder. Members of Terrence's own crew backed away from the ropes, ashamed and stunned. Asterisk. The man who humiliated others had just been publicly annihilated by a teenage girl whom no one saw coming. Elia didn't celebrate. She didn't jump, asterisk. She didn't even raise her gloves, asterisk. She simply stepped back, let the ref count him out, and looked around the room, and that's when it hit everyone at once. She wasn't just a good fighter, she was built for this. Machine sharpened in silence. A storm raised in secret. The ref called it. "He's out. That's it." Asterisk. The announcer hesitated before grabbing the mic. Winner by knockout. In one round, Elia Brooks? The name bounced off the walls like thunder, and still she didn't react. Asterisk. She calmly walked toward the ropes, stepped out of the ring, and began unlacing her gloves. No flash, no ego, no social media plug, asterisk, because this moment wasn't for the crowd. It was for her. She had walked into that gym with $10 in her pocket and left with a city in her shadow, asterisk, but more than that. She had reclaimed legacy, asterisk. Back in the bleachers, Jab Brooks had tears in his eyes. He hadn't trained her for applause. He had trained her for this very moment, to stand alone, take the hits, and prove the world wrong. Asterisk. As medics helped Terrence to his feet, the cameras followed him. But the headlines weren't his anymore, asterisk. They belonged to the girl with no entourage, asterisk. The girl with silence in her blood and power in her hands, asterisk. The girl who didn't ask to fight, but answered the challenge anyway, asterisk. That night, by midnight, the video had gone viral. Twitter blew up. Reddit caught fire, asterisk. ESPN asked, "Who is Elia Brooks?" Asterisk. TikTok dubbed her the ghost with gloves. Asterisk. And on every screen in America, across phones, TVs, and laptops, people watched the moment that one arrogant man's pride met a storm he never saw coming. Asterisk. The punch was now a gif, the moment immortal, and Elia? Asterisk, she was already gone from the gym. Walking down the street alone, hoodie up again. Disappearing into the Detroit dusk like she'd never been there at all, asterisk, but the world would never forget her, asterisk, because that night, she didn't just knock out a boxer. She knocked out the idea of what a fighter was supposed to look like. The morning after the knockout, Detroit wasn't just talking, it was buzzing, asterisk Eastwood Gym. Once the playground of loud-mouthed brawlers and social media boxers, now stood humbled. Reporters had camped outside the entrance since sunrise. The front desk phone rang nonstop. But no one was calling about Terrence Voss, asterisk. They were all asking for Elia Brooks, and no one had an answer. She had vanished after the fight, no interviews. No selfies, no victory lap. She didn't care for lights or microphones. While the world scrambled to learn who she was, Elia was already back home, in her quiet corner of the city, brewing tea for her father and icing her knuckles like it was just another day, asterisk, but the world. It couldn't move on. Clips of her knockout flooded the internet. On TikTok, the hashtag ALAYA Brooks hit 20 million views in 12 hours, asterisk. Sports channels began analyzing her movements frame by frame, calling it one of the cleanest knockouts of the decade. Asterisk boxing legends commented, "That girl's got real footwork. Old school." And on ESPN, the headline screamed, "Unknown team destroys local champion who trained her?" Asterisk, they didn't just want her story. They needed it. Asterisk, meanwhile, Terrence Voss, once invincible, now reduced to a meme, deactivated all his social media accounts. Rumors swirled that he checked himself out of the gym permanently. Sponsorships backed off. His name, once shouted in pride, was now whispered in embarrassment, asterisk, but Elia, she refused to cash in, no management deals. No interviews? No boxing contracts. Asterisk, instead, she used the $10,000 prize money and quietly opened a small gym in a forgotten warehouse on the west side of the city. No neon sign. No flashy logo, just a faded banner outside that read, "Greater than, still standing." Asterisk, inside, there were no posters of celebrities, no quotes from champions. Just mirrors, worn gloves, and a handwritten note taped to the wall. Asterisk, "Greater than this is not where you prove them wrong." Asterisk, "This is where you remember who you are." She didn't charge kids to join. She didn't ask about their records or belts. Asterisk, she asked one question, asterisk, "Why are you here?" Asterisk, because Elia understood something most fighters never did, that the battle isn't just in the ring. It's in your past, your silence, your survival, asterisk. She trained young girls who were told they were too weak. Boys who got jumped and never walked the same. Kids with stutters, burn scars, trust issues, and quiet rage, asterisk, and for each of them, she gave a pair of gloves. And time, she didn't teach them how to win fights. She taught them how not to run anymore, asterisk, meanwhile. Her name continued to echo across the country, asterisk. Colleges offered her scholarships. Brands begged her to be their face. Boxing promoters promised six-figure contracts, asterisk. She declined them all. Elia wasn't chasing fame. She had already beaten the only opponent that mattered, being invisible. But that didn't stop the world from remembering her. 1 year later, on the anniversary of the knockout, Eastwood Gym held a small ceremony. They unveiled a mural 10 feet tall. Painted across the wall where the old trophies used to hang, asterisk, it showed Elia in mid-motion, feet planted, eyes locked, glove extended, the exact moment her punch landed. Underneath in bold letters, "Greater than power isn't loud." Elia Brooks, she never came to see it, asterisk, but one night, long after everyone had left, an old man with a gray hoodie stood before it silently. It was Jab Brooks. He reached out and touched the painted glove, whispered something under his breath, then turned and walked away into the night, asterisk, and that was it. That was the legend. A girl who was forced to fight for someone else's entertainment. A girl meant to be humiliated, but instead, she rewrote the rules. She took their mic, broke it in half, and made the world listen with silence, asterisk.